Hello and welcome to our CRM vlog, which is some expert tips to help you make your CRM system a raving success. So, based on years of experience of rolling out CRMs and seeing companies who have done it really well and companies who have essentially let the CRM just sit there and gather dust, these are our expert tips to help you if you've put the effort in, you've put the resources in, and or even if you're planning to do that, to make your CRM rollout an absolute success for your company. So the first big one is the planning phase. What we have seen is that sometimes businesses just go out there, they get a CRM, they're like, let's just get in there and start using it. And what happens is that other people sort of jump in and start using it. They start adding their layer in. Other people start adding their layer in. Oh, we've got to do this. We've got to do that. And it may start off quite well, but what you end up with is essentially what we call a big bowl of spaghetti. So they bring us in as consultants, and as an example, someone might ask a question of like, why have we got these specific fields here? And we just look at them and go, we're not sure what even that data is. So sometimes we've got to do a bit of detective work and try and find out what that data is sitting there for. But the whole point is that there's never been an overarching strategy or plan for the rollout of the CRM. So typical things we would look at is how does a company relates to, sorry, a contact relate to a company? Can they belong to one or more companies? Where do the fields sit? So as an example, if you've got, say, a field which determines what type of client they are, does that field sit with the company, or does it sit with the client, with the contact the person belonging to that company? So as an example, say we've got XYZ Incorporated. They are a company that sells, add-ons for a Tesla vehicle, and they are a supplier. So what you may do is then have a field in the system and go, oh, logically it sits with the person that I'm dealing with, but then say a couple of years down the track, that person then moves off to a completely new job, and you've lost the fact that the company is the supplier, not the contact is the supplier. So they're some of the things that we jump into and look at this overarching planning as to how your CRM is set up. So it's crucial, absolutely crucial part of a CRM system. The next part of it is getting your team involved. We've seen companies that have jumped in and maybe one person has taken ownership of the CRM system, which is great. It means they've got initiative, they're getting out there and getting things done. But what's happened is that it's basically their perspective of how to set up the CRM for the whole company. And while it might seem good to them and maybe a couple of other people they've told it about, when you roll out across the company, everyone's maybe a bit confused, or they're like, hey, this bit's being left out, or why are we doing it this way? So what we highly recommend is get the team involved in the planning process for the CRM as well, because everyone's got a different perspective of how they're going to use it, what their workflow is, and what their objectives are as well. And sometimes it's the quieter people who maybe don't normally speak up, who have the best ideas of how to set up a particular component of your CRM system. So get your team involved. And the next item is having a test team. So what we mean by that is as you are rolling out the CRM, a lot of companies just blanket roll it out across the whole board, and you end up with this system that maybe say you've got a drop-down field and there might be a couple of items missing off it. And then you've got something else which doesn't quite talk to another bit or doesn't quite relate to another bit. And what happens is it starts to erode people's confidence in the CRM system. So before you do a rollout, what we normally do is do like a semi-rollout. So it might be that only certain key people within the organization have access to, say, a new feature you're rolling out, or even the CRM as a whole. So they get to maybe test it for a couple of weeks. So they might have the current system and the new CRM system in parallel, and they're doing a test just to make sure that the system is actually working for everyday usage. So once you go through that testing cycle, obviously then start to roll it out. and across the organization as well. And part of that testing phase is actually educating people around, hey, we're either rolling out a new feature or we're rolling out a new system. This is why we're rolling it out, and to preempt them rather than just going bang, here's how you're going to work from this day going forward. So people would be probably more resistant to that. So speaking of resistance, what we want to have is the fourth item is an incentive for people to use the CRM system. So what we're looking at is have a reward system. I've seen companies do it multiple ways. Sometimes some more playful companies have had something like where you've got the best, most perfect record possible with all of the comments in the right place and all of the items with all the perfect information, the phone numbers recorded perfectly, etc. That's one way of doing it, and other ways could be some sort of tied into their KPIs. What we don't want to see is getting in trouble for not using the CRM properly, because that will have people sort of start to hate the system. So we want to find that incentive for people to use it properly, whether it's showing the bigger picture of what it's all about, whether it's some rolling reports to have the information in front of people to say, hey, here's what happens when you actually have the system set up properly. And as I said before, we've had it. Some companies have had a bit of a fun competition where people look at each other's sales deals and they're like, your information's not identified properly, therefore it doesn't show up in the report. And we've seen, all sorts of fun incentives as well. So get creative around that and find an incentive for people to actually want to use it. And tied in with that is a training process as well. So with the training process, we want to have all team members in some sort of collaborative training system where they are taught the reasoning behind the system, the objectives of the system, and then how to use the system as well. So everything starts to make sense for them. And the last item is always have some sort of feedback and continuous improvement loop. What we find is that some companies, they set up their CRM system, they roll it out, and then it sits there for like another 3 years, and no one ever looks at it and goes, hey, is there a better way of doing this, or has our company evolved and the CRM needs to evolve as well? So always have that opportunity for feedback as well and continuous improvement. So hope that helps. As I said before, if you are about to roll out a CRM, or you've got one now that maybe you are maybe struggling to have some sort of success story around it, I hope these tips help, and roll them out and make it a success for your company. So as always, if you would love some advice or us to jump in and give a bit of a health check on your CRM system, feel free to reach out, because that's what we love doing. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next episode.